Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed to another edition of the Mark Moses Show as we're broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios here on the beautiful Space Coast area of Florida. Also want to give a shout out real quick to Walk On Sports Bistreaux right there in Vieira, home of the $5 Tito's and $4 22-ounce Busch Lights all day, every day at Walk On's in Vieira. And Chumley's Depot in downtown Melbourne where friends meet. Don't forget, it's Wednesday. They got comedy night tonight at Chumley's Depot. And yes, they're an official Philadelphia Eagles watch party location in the fall. I'm not a fan of the Eagles, just throwing it out there. You could go there for the Eagles games. Okay, let's bring on this guy to talk some college football with the season right around the corner, and he'll give his thoughts on Hulk Hogan. He is my great friend. Yeah, my great friend, Eric Lopez. Black and Gold Banneret does a great job, play-by-play guy for UCF Athletics as well. And yes, a big wrestling guy. Eric, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm staying inside the house because it feels like 1,000 degrees outside, so no reason to go out. But good to catch up with you, man. It's football season's finally here, college and pro. I mean, you have more optimism on your teams than I do on my teams, but, you know, hey, we got SummerSlam this weekend, so that we get that.
All right. I want to start with a comment I made Monday about UCF football because I watched where Scott Frost talked on Sunday at his presser. And I feel bad what I'm going to say to you, but I have to say it. I have lived here in Florida since 2013. I have seen all these different coaches that have now coached at UCF over the last decade or so. I have no optimism for this year. It's kind of like, all right, we'll see what happens. Like I've gone into other years. Like, yeah, let's go win the American Conference. Hey, let's see what this quarterback can do. Oh, let's see if the I maybe it's like coming off 0-12 all over again. That's the feeling I'm getting right now. And I support and root for UCF. I'm not sure. How about you, Eric, when you look at this program right now?
Look, it's a transitional year. In a lot of ways, it's a rebuild year, which was going to happen regardless of who the head coach is. I mean, I think the story has to start with last season, and I think that's where the hangover is. Last season becoming such a disappointment in Gus's last year. They went all in on last year and went 4-8. Just and to the point now, Mark, where I just released the top 50 UCF head coaches, greatest head coaches of all time on the list, and I dropped Gus all down to 41, and I got a lot of negativity. Like, he shouldn't be ranked at all. I wouldn't rank him over an interim coach. Like, UCF fans have a lot of right now animosity towards Gus and how things ended there. So you have that to start with, and then you bring in Scott Frost, and he's got basically 70 new players on this roster with a new staff, and there's just no players you can relate to. There's no players that the casual fan knows of. I mean, I would argue the most, other than Scott Frost, the second most well-known person in the program right now that's currently there is Mackenzie Milton, who's the quarterback coach. Right?
I agree with you. I do.
And so so there's a lot of unknown. And I think there's two ways of looking at it. The one side is, boy, 70 new faces. How many of these players can you hit on as far as these guys are good players? 30, 35, 40? Like, that's a pretty high rate if you can hit 40 players, but that means you still don't have the depth. So I think that's why this year is sort of grounded. I think people understand it. And to Scott's credit, Mark, he's being honest. He is not blowing this up. Like, Gus would tend to blow things up. Hey, this team should be winning. This should be this. And then they would fall flat on their face. I ran into some UCF fans so far, and one thing they appreciate is the honesty. They felt they didn't get honesty with the previous regime. So I think people are understanding of that. That being said, yeah, I think there's a lot of questions. But I will say this. This program tends to perform well when the expectations are low. And I think it does remind me a lot of 2016 when UCF was coming off the winless season and there was excitement over this young Scott Frost, but we don't know if this guy can be a head coach material. We don't know what we have and all that. And they went 6-7, but it was a very fun 6-7 year where you saw some building blocks. So that's what you're hoping for from a UCF standpoint is, could you duplicate that and say win 6-7 games this year? That would be considered a success. and you hope you have a core that you're building around that for the future.
All right, just say that one more time. 70 players?
Yeah.
70? Yeah. That's a whole roster. Am I missing?
Pretty much.
It's a whole roster. All right, you bring up Mackenzie Milton. All right, we know him. He used to be the quarterback at UCF. Who are the quarterbacks? Because the last couple of years, KJ Jefferson's our guy week one. And you had John Rice Plumlee's our guy week one. I have no idea who's week one started for this team. Is this an open competition in your eyes?
According to Scott Frost, it is. He has certainly said that as much at Big 12 Media Days. He said that in his media availability since then. It seems to be a three-person race with Tavian Jackson, a kid that transferred out of Indiana, was at Tennessee, so has ties to Mackenzie Milton from the Tennessee days, but doesn't have a lot of experience. And that's one thing that Scott Frost, that's one thing that's been consistent. He has said they have talent. They have players that have the ability. They're just not proven. Can they prove it at this stage? Jackson's one of those guys. I think a lot of people think he might win the job because he seems to fit what Scott's is looking for. However, you have one of the incumbent is Jakari Brown, who got some starts last year, wasn't very good as a passer, was a very athletic runner. People may not be aware of this, but Scott Frost actually recruited Jakari Brown when he was at Nebraska. So he's familiar with Brown. And then you've got Cam Fancher, who's a transfer, has experience starting and playing at FAU. And take this for whatever it's worth. I don't take much into this, but on Monday's first practice, they made the first 20 minutes of practice available for the media to see. All right. So you have 20 minutes, Mark, 20 minutes around 9 a.m. to check out what they're doing in practice. And then they shut it off. And they ran out the ones offensively. And who was the quarterback? Cam Fancher. Now, is that because they know that the media is watching this, so they want to purposely throw them out there, or are they randomly putting guys with their ones? Who knows? But I do think this is a genuine a starting job that is wide open. Scott Frost says he doesn't care how much money you're making or what your seniority is or whatever. He just wants the best guys to play, and his track record has proven that to be accurate, Mark, going back to 2016 when he played Adrian Killings out of Daytona Beach, was his first recruit, and he played him right away. He didn't redshirt him. He just threw him out there. So I think Scott's the type he will throw the best guys out there, whoever that is. The question is, when does that quarterback establish themselves? Because the concern is, and he's acknowledged this, people believe if you have three quarterbacks, do you really have a quarterback? And I don't think this program, which has gone through its drama over the last few years with the quarterback position, you don't want to have a situation where you're playing the chair is moving every other game with different quarterbacks this year.
Well, they played how many quarterbacks last year? 3? 4?
Well, they played Brown. You had Dylan Risk, who finished the season and then transferred out to Stanford. You had RJ Jefferson, so that's 3 at least right off the bat. And that's not including the freshman kid that played Colson, who also got some reps in there. So you're right. They played 4 quarterbacks last year.
No injuries, I don't think. I think
that was all decisions because Gus panicked. In my opinion, Gus panicked because they got blown out by Colorado and they got blown out by Florida. And he benched KJ Jefferson. And KJ did not perform to the expectations and what he was being compensated for. And nobody would deny that, but I still believe he was the best quarterback on the roster. And once they benched him against Cincinnati, it felt like the season went south from there. And so, yeah, that's kind of what happened last season. We'll see what happens this year if they have a quarterback that establishes themselves right away, or they're going to be playing a revolving door.
Who replaces R.J. Harvey, who's now on the Denver Broncos? Because, I mean, he was such a workhorse for this football team.
He is. I think the staff feels confident, though, about the backfield. You have Miles Montgomery, who was the backup last year, played at Cincinnati. He's very talented. Didn't get a lot of the reps because R.J. Harvey kind of took over.
Yeah.
So they're very excited about Montgomery. You got a lot of young backs there in Swint, who many believe might be the fastest running back on the roster. Kind of has a little bit of Adrian Killings vibes there. You've got Gage, who's a recruit. So they've got some talent. Scott Frost has referenced the comparison to when he was at Oregon. Remember, they had LaMichael James, who turned out to be a high draft pick and big prospect. And they're like, wow, how are you going to replace him? And they had Kenjon Barner right there to follow him at Oregon. I think that's how Frost sees the backfield is. They feel they have enough talent, and I think they'll use multiple backs to run that running game. I think you look at this team's strengths. Offensively, it's going to be the running backs and running the football because there's too many questions at the wide receiving situation and at quarterback. And I think the defensive line, Mark, and this defense is going to carry UCF for most of the first half of the year. I think their front four is as good as it gets that they've had there with Lawrence. You've got a healthy John Walker who missed last year up front as well. Kelly, who's a very talented, who's been Scott Frost described as the best player in the spring on the defensive side of the ball. So they feel really good about the front four defensively. And I think they feel that their defense with Alex Grinch as the new defensive coordinator will be pretty strong and pretty good and maybe carry the offense early on in the season. That's what they're going to put their hat on. But listen, there's a lot of questions still about who can perform at the high level that they need. And then offensively, who's going to be the receivers? Who's going to be the quarterback? Can they block? Can they pass protect? A lot of questions with a new staff that has a chip on their shoulder. A lot of guys that come over here with something to prove.
We're here with Eric Lopez talking UCF football. I appreciate the breakdown. I'm looking at this schedule. Jacksonville State, and then NC A&T, and then I think you have Bill Belichick and UNC. It still blows my mind to say that. Is that good for this program? Start with the two lower level teams, then ramp it up like that for you.
I think Appalachian State's a tricky game. Remember, Appalachian State won the Cure Bowl, I want to say, here in Orlando. And of course, Rich Rodriguez was the head coach, who's now at West Virginia. Jacksonville State, I remember when they were an FCS school in 2021, upset Florida State and right. Mackenzie Milton. So there's a storyline there. Now, Jacksonville State, there's a young team this year. They're in the FBS level. They won Conference USA last year, but most of the players, and Rich Rodriguez, as I mentioned, left to go to West Virginia. But that does draw a concern. Like, I do think this is an important game for Scott Frost to get off to a good start. They should win the A&T game. That's like a scrimmage. And then you got Bill Belichick coming to the bounce house, Mark. I know you've got that circle. You're going to be there, right? Are you wearing a hoodie? What to wear?
I think I'm just going to go over the schedule. I could be wrong here. I think that Saturday you have UNC at UCF and then also the Florida-Miami game in South Florida.
Woo!
You know what?
You're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of it.
You know what? I have to go to the bounce house. I have to see this circus in person. Is the girlfriend going to be on the sideline? What is going to happen? Will she be at the post-game presser? What is going to happen? I can't miss that. And then I'm going up for Florida, Texas in Gainesville in October. I can't miss that game. So I'm just giving you the schedule. That's what I'm going with.
You and I need to communicate that. That's a pretty good one.
We need to figure this out. I'm going to go over this stat for you.
Sure.
I like Scott Frost. Let's go over this. 6-7, then 13-0. Then he won 4 games, then 5 games, then 3, then 3, then 1 and got fired. He's 35-38, 31 losses at Nebraska, 31. You said this a second ago, like get that first win. Does he have something to prove this year, even if they're not a great football team, that this guy can coach college football at a high level?
Yeah, I think he does. That's why I think he needs to get off to a good start because, let's say you get upset by Jacksonville State week 1. Now you're having doubts. All those doubts come out like, oh, maybe this is a continuation of what's going on in Nebraska. Whereas if you win the Appalachian State game, now you're going to be 2-0 going into that Carolina game, which has just as many questions as you do. That'll be a pretty hyped game. Like that might get, that could get you some maybe Big Fox, Big Noon kickoff coverage. Who knows? With Belichick being a big story in college football this season. So now you're 2-0 going into that game. And if you win that, you're 3-0. And now you got some momentum going into Big 12 play. And now people are feeling good about where the direction of the program is. So I do think that the App State game, it's important for him. If he can get to 6 wins, I think we all agree the Nebraska job just didn't work out. As Zeke said, it was the wrong job. for him. I think Nebraska fans got all bent out of shape, but Matt Rule even agreed with him. It was a bad job. When he even took over. So harder to win at Nebraska these days than it is to win in Orlando at UCF. That being said, can he do it? Because there's certainly a lot of critics out there, and there's going to be a lot of people in Lincoln, Nebraska watching him closely. And I think it's important for him to get off to a good start, even if the season goes 6-6 or whatever. If you get off to a good start, people will accept that. You start losing. If you lose to Appalachian State, let's say, now all that negativity and the doubts and the critics are like, aha, you see? And I do think it's important for UCF because then people start thinking, well, maybe 2017 was a fluke. And that's not what you want to hear. So I do think it's important for him to get off to a good start on opening night. As weird as that sounds, an Appalachian State game. I do think that's important.
I think it's a Thursday night for the opener
It
as
is.
well. I like
It
that.
is.
I actually kind of like that for Labor Day weekend. Hey, for all the UCF fans, remember, you won 6 games pretty much 2 years ago. You had to beat Oklahoma State just to get bowl eligible. That was a great game in a monsoon. I was there. It was awesome.
I was there, too.
And last year, you won 4 games. So I kind of feel like stop thinking you're 13-0. Those days are over. You've got to reset. And again, what you said, Eric, 70 new players. That's what my expectations are so low. If they can get to a bowl game, I think this is a successful year for Scott Frost year 1. How about you?
100% agree. I think 6-6 would be great. Above that would be great. I think there's 2 goals from this year. 3 things you got to accomplish.
Okay.
That's number 1. Okay. Number 2, do you have a quarterback moving forward? Do you have that quarterback? Do you feel – remember 2016? He felt good about Mackenzie Milton. Not everybody did. Mackenzie had a rough patches in the freshman year, but I'll never forget because I was in the room after the Tulsa loss in 2016, and people were wondering, well, are you going to bench Mackenzie Milton for Justin and go back to Justin Holman, who was healthy at the time? He's like, no, this kid, Mackenzie Milton's going to win a lot of games for us. And he was proven to be correct on that. So do you have a quarterback moving forward out of this group? Whoever it is, I don't know. Then do you have a core? Do you have a core that you have that, I feel good about that guy, and I feel good about that guy, and I feel good about that guy, and I feel good about that guy moving forward to next year. And add to that, what you don't want to do, a nightmare scenario, Mark, in this landscape is, let's say this team does go 6-6 at 7-5, but then everybody leaves. Now you're starting over. And that is a problem. You can't have that. UCF can't afford, they got the revenue sharing, which is kind of like a salary cap. I'm not buying that these major programs are just, we're going to abide by the rules here. No, you got to have a core to build around moving forward. I'm not saying you're not going to lose players. I'm just saying you got to keep a core. Otherwise, if you're starting over, then you're like, well, do these people buy into what your coach is selling? One of the things, I don't know if you would agree with this, you cover the Gators much more in depth than I do. Don't you think one of the things that helped Billy Napier save his job was that he had DJ Lagway, but he also had a core around him that you've got something that you're building around. That's what Scott needs after this year is, hey, everybody can identify there's a core there that you could build around. And, oh, by the way, this program is fun again. Those are what he has to accomplish.
Okay, when you said that about losing players, I think of Mike Norvell at Florida State, where he built this team through the transfer portal, and then they fell off a cliff last year. They lost everyone. Yeah. They won 2 games. And then what's funny is Florida State's going hard on the transfer portal again. So we don't know if Florida State's going to be good or not this year. You have no idea.
Nobody does.
And I always say this. I was at that press conference there in Gainesville after Florida upset UCF in that game. Napier said afterwards, hey, no one has jumped ship on us. All these young players are still buying in, including Lagway. And I think that's when they turn the corner. I'm with you. You got to have the core. You're right. In
contrast to that, because I remember that presser, UCF had like 5-6 guys leave the program midway through the year.
Yeah.
So they could preserve the red shirt in comparison.
That, again, 70 players. 70. That is wild. And are you going to be watching Gus Malzahn from afar as well?
Absolutely, I will. I did. I just watched this presser, actually. By the way, no shock here. I called this because Mike Norvell, you know this. Mike Norvell, for the last few years, would always have open practice for the media, right? No problem. This year, Gus comes in, it's closed. It's all closed.
All right. Well, then who's the coach? Who's the coach of the team then?
It's a great question.
Well,
it's a good question. I will say this about that's going to work in Florida State's advantage. Because I actually like Gus. I think he just, the irony is the quarterback that he needed at UCF, he now has at Florida State, who was supposed to be at UCF, and Thomas Castellanos. That was his guy that he recruited and was on his roster at UCF as a true freshman, backing up John Rice Plumlee. And I'll never forget, he left after the spring the following year to go to Boston College. I wonder if things would have been different at UCF had he been able to keep Thomas Castellanos. But in this landscape, hard to do that when the guy's guaranteed to be playing time and get paid elsewhere. Now he's got Castellanos there. One thing about Gus is they're going to run the football, and I think they will be competent offensively, which they were not last year. That was the shocking thing, is they were incompetent. And part of that is, I think, Mike Norvell, the reason why they've been heavy portals, because he has struggled recruiting-wise massively. He just has whiffed on that, and he whiffed in the portal. He whiffed at the quarterback last year. Now Gus is running the offense, so I think they will be much better. They can't be any worse. They were literally one of the 5 worst offenses in college football. By every metric that you looked at, they were the worst. I trust Gus as an offensive coordinator. He will get them. I will predict this, Mark. You can play this back if I'm wrong.
All right.
He will have them at no worse than a top 50 offense. They will go from being one of the 5 worst offenses to a top 50 offense, which to me gets them from 2 wins to possibly 7 or 8 wins, just by that fix alone.
Okay. And then will Gus leave to be a head coach somewhere?
I can't predict him. I mean, obviously I didn't see him going back to being a coordinator. I think the next head coaching job he gets is a high school job. I've said this.
He's going all the way back.
Guy loves coaching high school. I don't think he likes this current landscape of college athletics. I think that did him in as a college head coach. I think Gus, the GM, screwed Gus, the head coach. His personnel decisions just made things worse. I still think he can coach X's and O's. I just don't think he can pick the personnel and be a head coach, but he doesn't have to do all that at Florida State. He could just be the offensive coordinator, dial up plays, which I think is what really he enjoys more so. So I think that I actually am optimistic that will work. I just don't know if they have enough depth or talent there. But again, they need to get to 7-8 wins to be a success at Florida State.
We're there, Lopez-Black and Banneret. Okay. Is it weird seeing Scott Frost there? Like at the press conference, like, well, I never thought this would happen. Do you ever have that moment?
It's weird. It feels nostalgic. It feels like I'm turning back the clock, and that'll probably stop once the opening game of the season starts. But it just feels like, turn back the clock to what it was 7-8 years ago, because those are some positive memories there. It just, it kind of feels very nostalgic to some extent. I think people are starting to kind of fit in and get used to it, but you also see Mackenzie Milton around. You see Sean Beckton around. So there's a lot of feel-good stuff, but that won't translate to on the field. We got to see what it looks like on the field in a few weeks.
Dude, I said this the other day. Nebraska's the past. I don't give a. I'm sorry. I was about to swear there. I'm trying not to.
It's your show. Yeah, it's your show.
I'm trying to do this. You failed there. Okay, but that's past. You got to help UCF now. I don't care.
Well, and this is the thing, right? So his legacy's on the line now because, I came out with this top 50 head coaching list on blackandgoldbanneret.com, which I recommend people check out. And we ranked Scott Frost 7th all time because of that year, how important that 2017 year was. And I agree with this assessment that some people have that without that season, Mark, I don't think UCF's in the Big 12. I really don't, because a lot of people started talking about UCF at that point. It got them on the national map. They went undefeated. They won the Peach Bowl. They followed that up with another undefeated season. I think they blew past South Florida as the pecking order at that point. And I think Scott deserves big. He did an incredible job that year. But it's interesting. I've had people it's been a polarizing topic. Some people are like, no, he should not be ranked ahead of a George O'Leary or a Gene McDowell or blah, blah, blah. There's others like, no, you properly ranked them and all that. Well, you know what? It's all going to get answered now by this second run. Because if he does great, I think he goes down as the greatest UCF head coach in football history, in the program's history. If he struggles like he did at Nebraska, then he drops. And it's like, well, we had that great 2-year run or whatever, 1-year run, but that was it. And then, so I think there's a lot on the line for him on that. And to show that wasn't a fluke, that was, that, hey, that was what was working and it could work again. So I think that, to me, that's why I'm intrigued by this. I'm fascinated by this comeback story. We don't see this often. I hope it works out. I wrote about this when he first was announced. It reminds me of, I compared him. I'll give you 2 comparisons I did in the column. You've watched, I'm assuming, Top Gun Maverick, right?
Yes, I have.
Remember, what was your reaction when they first announced, when you heard that they're going to do a sequel to Top Gun?
I thought it was going to be stupid, but then I was wrong. I enjoyed it.
Same thing with Frost coming back. I'm like, is this going to work? Is this not? But people are interested, and people ended up rooting for Tom Cruise's character, Maverick. And by the way, that turned out to be the biggest box office movie to date of Tom Cruise's career. I'm going to turn this into a wrestling angle because I would.
No, I knew. I was waiting for this.
The other comparison I made in the column, to CM Punk coming back to WWE. Remember when he came back? What was he reaction? Oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Guy's a problem guy. Could be in trouble. Is this going to be, is it going to be as good as the first run? I think you would agree with me. It's been a very successful second run here for CM Punk. So if you're UCF, those are 2 examples you're hoping that Scott Frost follows there of CM Punk and Tom Cruise's character in Top Gun, that the set, just because you might be skeptical of the sequel, it could still work out and be as successful, if not more successful.
Okay, I just want to say this. First run for CM Punk, he won multiple championships. Second run, he's won nothing.
Yet.
No, I like Scott Frost. I do. I was sad he left the first time. I'm a little shocked he came back. And honestly, I don't think he gets another job in college football.
No. I think he stays with the LA Rams. I think he stays in pro football. And it was interesting. One of the things that's kind of been underwritten was Sean McVay helped bring him back to joy. I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said, but it reignited his joy and love for the football, for coaching football. I think Sean McVay really, if he doesn't cross paths with Sean McVay, I'm not sure. You're right. To your point, I don't think he's coaching right now in college football for sure. And maybe he's not coaching in general. I think he would have stayed in the NFL if it wasn't for the UCF job.
He is Eric Lopez-Black and Gold Banneret. That's our thoughts right now as they've been doing practice for 3 days now. Let's get to Hulk Hogan. I know you're going to give me a complicated, long answer. I'm going to give you the floor, okay? I'm going to give you a floor. The floor right now. What are your thoughts on the passing of Hulk Hogan?
This is so unique, man, because everybody knows about how the last 10, 15 years was a bad, just bad person, all right? But this hits everybody. If you're a wrestling fan, I think you and I are in the same age wavelength. We all grew up watching wrestling. Hulk Hogan was right in the middle of it in the 80s. Like, I remember I was telling somebody this, my first wrestling match that I can remember watching as a kid live was Saturday night's main event, Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant, where they had the 2 referees and they screwed Hogan out of the title. Like, I was the kid that used to rent WrestleMania tapes and SummerSlam from Blockbuster. Couldn't wait till it came out just so I could see the matches, right? Yeah. I mean, so that's how I started getting into wrestling. Like, I don't, and I know some people have tried to make this, well, wrestling would still be around. It'd still be huge if it wasn't for, maybe it would be. Yeah, I think wrestling would be around. But I don't think it would have exploded if it wasn't for his character, Hulk Hogan. Everybody. Like, I mean, I used to have all those Hulk Hogan stuff, gear, a shirt. I think I have his wrestling figure somewhere here in the household. So either you were a Hulk Hogan fan when you were growing up, or you were a fan of somebody that was going against Hulk Hogan. Maybe you weren't a Hogan guy, but you were a Macho Man guy. And because of the mega powers and then that feud, or you were maybe an Ultimate Warrior guy because of WrestleMania 6, or you were a Roddy Piper guy. He just had that connection with everybody that was bigger than life. And then certainly I'll never forget watching it live when he turned heel in WCW with the NWO in Daytona Beach in 1996 was, to me, the biggest heel turn in the history of the industry. And we've proven, John Cena has proven this year that it's not as easy as people think just to turn heel when you've been so a beloved babyface popular guy for over a decade. Because I think this Cena heel run has been a flop. And it's not necessarily all his fault, but it's been a flop. And it just kind of shows you more appreciation for that heel turn that Hogan did, because I don't think the NWO would have been as big as it is if Hogan was not the third guy. So this guy, he's on the Mount Rushmore in wrestling. And that's why I think everybody's conflicted. And I think there's been a lot of retro thinking here. We understand the person is disappointing, but this is a part of your childhood that's gone. Like, I think, that's the thing. Like, especially if you really think about it, Mark, a lot of the guys from those 80s are gone now. Like, I think it's Ric Flair, basically, that's left. I mean, if you want to count Sting, because he's kind of borderline late 80s, 90s. A lot of those guys are gone now. It's basically Ric Flair, which is kind of weird, and Vince. We'll probably go through this again when Rick passes away and when Vince, it's going to be complicated. But, by the way, if WWE does the best job in these tribute videos when somebody passes, like, I wish they would do the tribute video for me whenever my day passes, because I don't know how they do it. They got the music. They're just incredible. Like, I couldn't help but get all, like, emotional watching that Monday video with a music video there on Monday night. So I understand it's disappointing how things ended for him, because he could have been a larger than life guy now if he just wasn't such a bad human being off the field there. But at the same time, you cannot take away what his contributions as a wrestler did, because again, I don't know if I'd be a wrestling fan. I don't know if this conversation's going on, Mark, if neither one of us crosses paths with Hulk Hogan as a kid.
Talking to multiple people about this discussion over the last couple of days, and that was a great answer. I appreciate sharing that with me. It's kind of like Hulk Hogan, the character, like an actor was playing Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan is Superman or Batman. It's this, you're talking about the character he played and the impact he had. I think, and I keep saying this, Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, the genius thing they did, they marketed to children. The WWE was a family children type thing. Because you said this where, hey, when I was a kid, I had the toys and the video games and all, and you watch it, Hulk Hogan, all that stuff. It's so sad. It's sad he died. They're all dead. All these guys are dead. So yeah, you're right. Vince McMahon's alive. Ric Flair somehow, I don't know how Ric Flair is alive, but
neither does he.
He has no idea. It is very sad. It is. And I think Hogan is the GOAT. I think he's Mount Rushmore and the head of the table. I think the two most famous. All right. I'll do it like this. The top three most famous moments in professional wrestling in my eyes are the Montreal Screwjob, which set stuff in motion, where it created the Attitude Era, kind of. Then him body slamming Andre the Giant.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And what you said, the heel turn to create the NWO. He's got two of the three of all time. He's the greatest of all time.
You could argue he was in the middle of two of the biggest booms in the history of the wrestling industry in the 80s.
Yeah.
With Hulkamania, and then in the 90s with the Monday Night Wars and the NWO. Like, he was right in the middle of those. Right. That's significant. That's not many could say that. I mean, you didn't even bring up, how about his WrestleMania 18 match with The Rock?
Oh, I watched it the other night.
It was incredible, right? Like, is it the technical wrestling 101? No, but that's, if you want to show people why people care about wrestling, that's why, because there's this emotional attachment and they make you feel. And he had a way of doing that as a wrestler and as a character. And even he would, like, Ric Flair told the story when he was on his deathbed and his daughter Charlotte was there in the hospital. One of the first people that come to visit him was Hulk Hogan and comfort her. So he's just, it's just weird, man. It just, for whatever reason, it just
look. Deals. Here's the moral of the story: he never should have talked to Bubba the Love Sponge.
No, that was bad deal there, and bad, and so it's unfortunate. But yeah, man, I mean, NWO match against The Rock, that was the ultimate match. I mean, stole the show at WrestleMania 18.
Who is the belt? Who went on after them? You know this.
It was Jericho Triple H.
That's right. Who
the
won?
Forgotten main event? Triple H as a babyface. And remember, Hogan won the title, I think, a month or two later, beating Triple H for that.
And then I watched a clip last night where it's Hogan versus Flair from like 2006. It's not good. They're both in their 50s.
They didn't let it go. The TNA days. Yeah, the TNA Impact days.
No, it was not good. So, yeah, Hogan, very complicated, but his impact on the industry, I mean, just pop culture overall.
That's the word. That's the word. Pop culture. He's the perfect fit in the 80s, man, where there was larger than life. Think about Mike Tyson in boxing was similar, right? Just bigger than life. Yes, that's the thing. Everybody knew who he was, even if you weren't a wrestling fan. And listen, I always said this. He was the type that could go on Jay Leno or go on the Tonight Show. A lot of wrestlers can't do that. He was one of the few.
I liked him in Suburban Commando. I keep saying this. Okay,
I'm the only person that actually liked No Holds Barred. They didn't mind No Holds Barred.
I like No Holds Barred. And then there's the other one where he's like the nanny. There's some all these like kids movies. They're so bad. And then what was it? Thunder in Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise.
So he's solving mysteries on a boat.
Well, no. Do you remember the most famous gig though he had in the movie? This was before even Hulkamania was big.
Okay. So the Thunder Lips in Rocky.
Oh my God, in Rocky 3, because I'm a huge Rocky mark. I remember watching Rocky 3 after watching him wrestle Andre the Giant. I was confused as a kid. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, he's facing Rocky? Why are they calling him Thunder? He's Hulk Hogan. Why is he why is he a half bad guy? I'm confused, Mark. I was very confused. But that was one of the great cameo villain characters in a movie that you will find because he dwarfed Sylvester Stallone. It was incredible. And he paved the way for guys like The Rock and now Dave Bautista and John Cena who have gone to the movie industry. That started with Hulk in a lot of ways.
And you could tell Hogan wanted to be at the level of The Rock and John Cena in Hollywood. It makes sense.
No doubt. Yeah.
Okay, we'll end with this. And I appreciate going along with me. Who's winning the belt on Sunday? Or is it Saturday and Sunday at SummerSlam?
There's two main events. We got Punk. He's already taken a dig, saying he hasn't won a title yet. He's facing Gunther for the in night one's main event. I would assume it's the main event of the Saturday night. Do you like the 2 nights, by the way? Are you have you adjusted to the 2 night events now of these major shows?
For Mania, yes. For this, no. Do you like the 2 nights?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, what else am I going to do this weekend? There's nothing else. What am I going to do? Watch the Marlins play? Like, what am I supposed to do?
And it's 110 degrees outside.
Exactly. This is perfect.
All right.
And I like the fact that it's this early, not because normally SummerSlam is towards the end of August.
Yeah.
But that's right around football. This is kind of like the perfect time here when like football hasn't really kicked in yet. So I like this. So I've gotten used I'm good with it. I don't like 6-hour shows like AEW did with All In. I just can't. I did that with the last WrestleMania in Orlando. Was nearly 5 hours. It was insane.
I was there as well. And there was a moment there where I blacked out and I woke up and I wasn't drinking or I'm just saying like, because you're there so long. I swear I blacked out. I started to pay attention again, and Pitbull showed up and had a concert. Then Pitbull left, and then there was like more wrestling. Gronk showed up. It just kept going and going. I think Gunther should win. Gunther, whatever his name is. You got to let him win because if he loses, then you're just going to squash him moving forward. He's actually a good heel. Let him keep going.
He is a great heel. So there's a lot of interesting questions with this match. Do you believe, Mark, that Seth Rollins' knee injury that suffered at Saturday night's main event a few weeks back do you think that's a shoot or a work?
I'm getting the tough questions now.
You got to see Unreal, by the way. The documentary, there's like a series they just did it on Netflix.
I think it's real. I think he did get injured.
We're gonna find out because I think if it's not real, if it was a work, or maybe it was I think it was an injury that wasn't as serious, but they needed to be off TV. I think he cashes in that match. We're going to find out. If he does not, then I think the injury's legit, that he's out for a while. But I think he cashes in and prevents Punk from winning the title. That's my prediction on that.
That is your prediction. And then who wins the real championship belt on Sunday night?
Look at you at the real title, taking a shot at the world.
It is the real title. There should be one belt.
If Gunther was in your studio, right, talking to him, would you tell him that to his face?
No, I would tell him, thank you for finally retiring Goldberg.
That's true. That was very well done.
Okay, wait. I watched that live. Was that on? It was
NBC.
like
NBC.
NBC. So it's very weird where Gunther wins. They go to commercial break. It comes back, and Goldberg's talking for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, the clock was all off because of the Rollins situation. Yeah, it was off. Everything was off.
Then Goldberg was angry. Angry, like I didn't get to talk more. What?
Which I don't think was ever intended to be on NBC, but whatever. He needs to get over it. Cody's winning the belt. You can't, and I think the Cena heel run is over. It's done. We got to wrap it up because it's been a flop. It's not been good. Not necessarily all his fault. I kind of blame The Rock in this to some extent because he just disappeared after I want your soul, and then he disappeared. It was bad. Just end it. Turn Cena face. Turn the chapter. Cody wins the title on Sunday night. Can I tell you who I met this past weekend? I was calling pro softball at the UCF softball complex, right? You know who was in the building?
The Undertaker?
No, it would have been cool, though. He does go to a lot of softball tournaments in your backyard, actually.
He has been there. He has.
That has not happened. So I'm walking out of my press box. You've been to my press box is to the right side. I go outside. There's a young lady there. We're looking for some shade because it's 1,000 degrees. One Jade Cargill, who's a co-owner of the pro softball team, the Atlanta Smoke, was there to watch the game. She's got her, looking for shade. And she asked me, hey, can I use this chair that was, the seat was outside? And I'm thinking, what am I going to tell her? No? Of course it could go. What am I going to say? No, you can't. Sorry there. So I tell her, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, wait, you're Jade. Because I could tell by that. He's like, yeah. It's like, and I could tell that she's like, man, I got recognized. Darn it. I was hoping to watch. So I'm like, hey, I'm just a fan. I wish you good luck.
Yeah, you're going to notice her with the hair. She's from Vero Beach.
Is she? Yeah.
Yeah, so she local, and I interviewed her years ago. That's really cool. You got to meet her.
I got to meet her. Great, awesome. She was really sweet. I wished her well against Tiffany Stratton in the title match on Saturday. So that would be kind of cool if she wins on Saturday. And I could say I met the future women's WWE champion. A handful of days before that.
She met Eric Lopez. I'm just going to tell you this. I'm going to just tell you this. So John Cena's legacy has now grown. This motion, You Can't See Me, changed the life of two very famous people in this country, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. When Angel Reese does the You Can't See Me, it changed both their lives forever. If I really believe this, that got so big in the moment as a controversy. I don't know. I don't know if Angel Reese is as famous right now as she is. That catapulted her, if you're going to say wrestling, into a heel, right? Sure. And she kept going. And Caitlin Clark, remember, she loses that championship game. I think that took her where people are like, what? Right,
because people were shocked that wait, there's trash talking going on here in women's basketball? I got to see this. Yeah, no, I agree. It
was shocked because, look, you just won the championship. You should be celebrating with your teammates. No, you just want to trash this woman over here. I think that changed women's basketball.
I agree.
Forever.
I agree. Caitlin had a following already. She had a following already because of, she's kind of like Steph Curry in a lot of ways with the shooting and all that. But you're right. Angel Reese kind of put herself there by being that rival, that nemesis, and by the trash talking. Because people are like, oh, I can't believe she did that to Caitlin. And then we find out, well, yeah, that's because Caitlin did that to her as well. So, yeah. I do buy that theory. Yes.
And what I want to happen, I want them to join forces like the mega powers. I need Angel Reese to join the Indiana Fever and that they become champions and destroy everyone else. That's what I want to see in WNBA.
Maybe in a few years. Maybe in a few years.
You know what? I don't know who's in first place. I don't know who the MVP is. I don't know any of that stuff. But there you're going to go. Eric Lopez, thank you so much for coming on. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. All right?
Mark, always a pleasure. Enjoy SummerSlam, and I'm sure we'll talk NFL and college the rest of the year. But thanks for always having me on, buddy.